Hey guys, today we're talking about the area of a triangle. So I want you to go ahead and write down the formula for a triangle. Now there's two, and here's why. Because division of 2 is the same thing as multiplying something by a half. If I have a certain amount of people, like let's say I have, I don't know, a certain amount of cupcakes, and I want to divide them by 2 people, then I divide by 2. Or if I give half to one person and half to another, that's the same thing. So that's why a division of 2 is the same thing as a multiplication of a half. Okay, so let's explore triangles a little bit. Remember the area of a rectangle was length times width? Here's my rectangle, right? We know the formula for a triangle because we know the formula of a rectangle. Length times width is the same thing as base times the height, right? So if I have the length times the width and I cut it in half from one diagonal to the other, it makes 2 triangles, right? So if I have the base times the height and I do the same thing, again, it makes 2 triangles. So I can remove this triangle from here and notice that if I only want one, I'm cutting it in half, or I'm dividing by 2. So since 2 triangles make up a rectangle, then half of the rectangle equals the area of a triangle. So that's where it comes from. So now let's try it. If we're writing the formula, it's the base times the height cut in half. And we'll do this one this way, and the area equals the base times the height times 1/2. Okay, and we're going to prove that it's the same. So remember, the base is always the one that's perpendicular to the height. Okay, so 12 and 8. These 7s, they don't even matter because they are not the height of the triangle and they're not perpendicular to the height of the triangle, so therefore they're not the base. So if my base is 12 and my height is 8 and I cut it in half, then I take 12 times 8, and when I do that, I get 96. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut 96 in half. And when I do that, I get 48. So I get 48 feet squared. Okay, over here, the base is still 12, the height is still 8, but I'm cutting it in half. In this case, 96 times 1/2 is still 48 feet squared. Okay, your turn. This right here is the right angle. So go ahead and try this problem, and I'll be back in just a second to show you what I did. Okay, making sure that you first have the formula, then plugging in all of your work. Okay, so base times height cut in half, or base times height times 1/2. So the base is 9 and the height is 5, which is 45, but now we have to cut it in half. So 45 divided by 2 gives us 22 and 5/10, and these are centimeters squared. Again, over here, you would have done something similar. You would have still gotten 45, but this time it's times 1/2, which is the exact same thing, and you would have still gotten 22 and 5/10 centimeters squared. Okay, so what about missing pieces? This is similar to the exact same thing that we did with rectangles. However, there's an added step. We know the area formula, and I prefer using the times 1/2 for this because I think it's easier to see, but division is just as equally important. So we're going to take the base times the height times 1/2. And in this case, we know the area is 24, and we don't know the base, but we know the height is 6, and we know 1/2. So 6 times 1/2 is 3, so we have 3b on this side. So we divide by 3 on both sides, and b equals 8 centimeters. Now, if you did the divide by 2 instead of the 1/2, it's the same thing, because you have 6 b's, and you divide them by 2, and you get 3 b's. Okay? Go ahead and try this one, and I'll be back in just a second to show you what I did. Okay, so you should have paused the video. You had base times height times 1/2, or you cut it in half. You had 40 over here, and you had 8 times b. I'm rearranging it, even though this one is the 8 and this one, or excuse me, this one is the 8 and this one is the b. because I think it looks a little bit better. So if you divided it, it would be 4b, or if you multiplied 8b times 1/2, instead, it would still be 4b. So divide by 4 on both sides and you get b equals 10 meters, and that is your total. And that's all I have for you today, and I will see you next time.